Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Crop Roadshow. The format will be similar to the last season, but since we're covering orchids, it'll be talked about a little bit differently. We'll go over the history of a specific orchid species or hybrid, its ornamental properties, the traits that are passed on, the ease of growth, and the breeding history. And following that, we will rank them based on those aspects. This will be the rule for the first 2 episodes, which includes this one. For the first 6 episodes, we'll be talking about orchid. The first orchid we'll cover is Cattleya mossiae. Cattleya mossiae is a spring flowering orchid that often blooms during the months of March, April, or May, depending on the cultivar. The flower, as you can see above, is quite lovely looking. It was the second Cattleya orchid discovered after Cattleya laebata, and caused a sensation when it was first introduced to Europe in 1836. Unlike Cattleya laebata, Cattleya mossiae was plentiful and was easily collected for production purposes. This orchid had large showy flowers compared to most other orchids at the time. A single plant in a 10-inch pot could also produce 20 or more flowers, as there's multiple flower spikes and each spike producing about 4 to 5 flowers. Various cultivars were developed over the years, and all of these got rewarded. This occurred between 1865 to 1913, during which time 37 awards of merit and 16 first-class certificates were given to 53 Cattleya mossiae cultivars. This flower is native to Venezuela, where it's known as the national flower of that country, which is quite the accomplishment since 4 large flower Cattleya orchids, such as Cattleya lueddemannia, Cattleya persevalliana, Cattleya gascaliana, and Cattleya gemini. Like most Cattleya orchids, it is a southern exposure plant, requiring a southern-facing window to obtain the maximum amount of sunlight in an indoor growing space to produce flowers. But amongst the Cattleya species, specifically the large flowered one, it is the easiest to flower, and the species adapts really well to a wide array of growing conditions outside of light. From a hybridizing history perspective, most of the spring flowering hybrids have Cattleya mossiae in their pedigree, the most famous of which would be Cattleya kenhamiana, a hybrid between Cattleya purpurata and Cattleya mossiae. This hybrid dominated the June cut flower market for decades in the United States town of New Jersey. From an ornamental property standpoint, it gets a 3L3 for me. From a breeding history standpoint, it also gets a 3L3 due to the fact that most of the spring flowering varieties of orchid, specifically Cattleya orchid, have this species in their pedigree. For trait qualities, I give it a 2L3, considering that one of the features that, although is well liked by me, is the fall forward petals. This trait is liked by a small number of individuals, but disliked by most, and this trait is very dominant in nature, with only a few cultivars of Cattleya mossiae having none of that feature. As for ease of growth, for Cattleya orchid I would give it a 3L3, based on the description listed out on the source below. In conclusion, I would give it an 11 out of 12 from a quality standpoint. Now on to the next orchid. The next orchid on our hit list is Cattleya dowiana. Cattleya dowiana is naturally found in Colombia and Costa Rica. It is the only yellow-flowered variety of Cattleya in that region, and one of the few large-flower Cattleyas in the world. It was discovered in 1850. It's been used extensively in breeding, although the genetics remains only partially known. What is known is that Cattleya dowiana will amplify the lavender color in lavender Cattleya orchids, with the vast majority of the dark purple hybrids available having Cattleya dowiana pedigree. By contrast, the yellow sepals of that species are so recessive that hybrids rarely have it. There's also some minor traits within Cattleya dowiana that indicates that semi-albas are part of that pedigree. This species also has a great deal of variability, even between flowers. The fragrance of Cattleya dowiana is also passed down to 80% of its progeny. The cream-colored lip found in some variants of Cattleya dowiana is also passed down dominantly in hybridization, with 21% of the hybrids between a regular hybrid and Cattleya dowiana having that trait. The amount of light within a common household is insufficient to grow Cattleya dowiana, however, and a greenhouse is required to grow a species properly, and it's very particular about its watering schedule, making it a more difficult orchid species to grow. Now on to the traits du jour. In terms of ornamental properties, it is quite lovely, however the open-faced flower is considered a detriment to some, so I can only give it a 2 out of 3. For breeding history, it's been used extensively to breed dark purple Cattleyas, so I have to give it a 3 out of 3 for that form of history. For trait qualities, due to the inability to pass on the yellow trait, I have to give it a 2 out of 3 because it passes on other cool traits as well. As for the ease of growth, I have to give it a 1 out of 3 for its hard to grow nature and inability to be used as a houseplant. The final ranking for this orchid would be 8 out of 12. Now on to the next orchid. Now on to Cattleya purpurata. Cattleya purpurata is initially believed to be a Laelia species due to the fact that it has 8 pollina. Pollina are pollen capsules found within orchids. Cattleyas typically have 4, while Laelias typically have 8. But due to the genetic testing and the great physical differences between regular Laelias and Cattleya purpurata, alongside the vast physical similarities between regular Cattleyas and Cattleya purpurata, it has been placed back into the Cattleya genus. But prior to that, there was a great debate on whether or not Cattleya purpurata would be a Laelia or Cattleya. John Lindley put it in there because of the 8 pollina scheme, while others, comparing the pseudobulb and flower shape, put it into Cattleya, although genetics have shown that Cattleya is the correct one. This is further complemented by the fact that although regular Laelias and Cattleyas can interbreed, complications do arise quite frequently, whilst Brazilian Cattleyas like Cattleya purpurata can crossbreed with regular Cattleyas without any flower distortions or complications. This orchid species was first introduced to England in 1852. As of right now, there's more clones or cultivars of Cattleya purpurata than there are of other species, including the most prolific species of regular Cattleya we know of, such as Cattleya triani and Cattleya mossiae. Most of the so-called Laelia Cattleya hybrids, indeed 90% of them, have Cattleya purpurata in its pedigree. It has more thin sepals and petals than most other species of Cattleya, but the dark purple coloration is passed on to its hybrids alongside these narrow petals. And due to the many color forms, it's a collector's dream. This species can be grown like most Cattleya hybrids, and as a result, it can be utilized as a houseplant in 7 exposure windows. From an ornamental plant breeding perspective, it has great ornamental properties. I'm going to let my bias win over this one, with me saying that the tubular lip and the narrow petals work really well together, and the hybrids also look wonderful as well. So I'll give it a 3 out of 3. In terms of breeding history, it's been used extensively to breed 90% of the Laeliocattleya hybrids, quote unquote. As such, I give it a 3 out of 3 as well. For trait qualities, I give it a 3 out of 3. For ease of growth, 3 out of 3. For a total of 12 out of 12, or 100%. And that about covers everything. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this video. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to me on BitChute for a greater variety of content, 4 videos a week. And thank you to all my subscribers on both platforms. I appreciate it.